Hey everybody, welcome to Hockey Skate Down. Before we get into the video, I just want to say thank you to all my subscribers. If you want to join our hockey team, it's free. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell to all. Thank you all so much, and let's get started. So after their Game 7 loss to the New York Rangers, there's been a lot of news coming out with the Pittsburgh Penguins, with namely Evgeni Malkin and Kris Letang. So I want to do a video on it because it's very interesting news. And, everybody wants to see these players play with the Pittsburgh Penguins. They built this legacy with playing with Sidney Crosby and, was winning championships and playing well year after year, getting into the playoffs. And I can't imagine them on another team, but, we'll have to wait and see what happens with this as they're free agents at the end of the year. They've been very vocal about wanting to stay with the Penguins, but we'll see if it makes sense dollars and cents-wise going forward with General Manager Ron Hextall. So please stay with me throughout. I have a couple of news to share with everything that's been going on since their exit from the playoffs this year. So news came out that Penguins insider Rob Rossi said on 9:37 The Fan that the Penguins offered Kris Letang and Evgeni Malkin 3-year deals worth $15 million, and these lowball offers did not sit well with Sidney Crosby. Rumors that Friedman says that other teams expect Seattle Kraken to be aggressive in free agent market. I think they're going to go after some players with some offensive ability up front and on the blue line. And he mentions Klingberg and Letang as potential options. Now, I'm going to throw out there the Montreal Canadiens as well, as you've been hearing Kris Letang's name linked to the Montreal Canadiens as well, as they're going to be looking to improve their roster heading into the next season as well. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Malkin and Letang over the summer. They've been very vocal about wanting to stay with the Penguins, to retire a Penguin and finish their careers with Sidney Crosby, trying to win another cup. But it all comes down to are they valued as much as they want on their next deals? Elliott Friedman also went on to say that the Penguins were hoping for a 3-year term for Evgeny Malkin, but couldn't agree on money. Elliott Friedman also said that they are not close to signing Letang, and the Penguins last offered Kris Letang a 4-year deal at a little under $7.25 million AAV, which is currently what he's making now. Letang, per Mike DeFabio of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, did say that his main goal is to stay with the Pittsburgh Penguins and play in Pittsburgh. Malkin said that Friedman supported Rob Rossi on the Penguins, offering Malkin a 3-year term. With Sidney's 3 years left on his current deal, reported that Malkin's camp and the Penguins' camp were far, far apart on dollar value. Evgeny Malkin, at the end of season media availability, said to everybody, "Have a good summer. Hopefully I see you all next year." He said, "I love the city and the fans so much. If this team wants new blood and young guys, they say to me to move on, we will see. I want to stay here. I want to play in the NHL," because there was rumors of him possibly going back to the KHL. So he kind of squashed that with saying that. "I hope I stay here. I hope I retire here." Elliott Friedman also said that there could be a chance that Flurry returns to the Pittsburgh Pengs this summer. So that's another interesting little tidbit that came out. As would love to see the gang get back together again, but also got to consider Bryan Rust is out there. He's a free agent at the end of this year, and a lot of teams are going to be knocking on his door. A lot of teams want that gritty, edgy play that Bryan Rust offers. At the locker room cleanout, he said, "I'm not looking to rob anyone. Like I said, I just want what I deem as a fair, reasonable contract. I'd like to think the same thing. I'd like to think something gets worked out here." So, I like what he says. Right to the point. Says, I'm not looking to go after all this money. I want something that's fair for both sides, especially myself. So, and he wants to stay here. So he has a good situation here. With Bryan Rust, I don't know if his numbers would be as inflated playing with other teams. He's a hell of a player. Any team would love to have him. Any fan would love to have him on his team, but he knows the situation there as well, where he's playing with Crosby and Malkin and all these great players the Pittsburgh Penguins have. So, he's in a good spot. And maybe he'll take a little bit less to stay there. But, with Letang and Malkin, these low ball offers, it's just, I'm sure it's bothering them and it's bothering other players as well, like Sidney Crosby said as well. But, we'll see what happens. I think, especially with Kris Letang and Evgeni Malkin being 35 years old, Bryan Rust is 30. So when you hit that 35 years old, if an injury does happen, it still counts against your cap. So that's the tough thing to consider. But with this team, I've never seen a team. I've watched a lot of hockey. I've been a fan for a very long time. But with this team, I've never seen players lift the team up when a key player goes down for a certain amount of time. Especially with Crosby and Malkin. Whenever one of them goes down for a long period of time, man, that player just rises up, puts that team on his back, and just helps them get into the playoffs. So it's just something to behold with this team. It's always that next man up mentality, and but it would suck to see one of these guys leave the organization. I really want to see them retire all as Penguins. We'll see what happens this offseason. Looking at how they did this year, Malkin played in 41 games, had 20 goals, 22 assists for 42 points. And again, with him, he's not played a lot of games in each season for a very long time. Every year he plays a lot less than the 82-game mark. And, that's something that general manager would consider. To give him another contract where he's making this much money, it's going to count against the cap. It's going to hurt them financially when they're trying to make moves, especially come playoff time where they want to bolster their roster to get into a good position in the playoffs. So, he's 35 years old. He's a free agent, and he's currently making $9.5 million. So we'll see what happens with Malkin. I'm guessing I've heard over the year that he's not going to try to take as much as he can, and he might take a haircut to stay here, but I don't know how much of a haircut he'll take when he's currently making 9.5. Then you have Kris Letang. Kris Letang had his best year. 78 games played, 10 goals, 58 assists, 68 points at 35 years old. He had a phenomenal year, putting up his best season in points, and he's currently making $7.25 million. So I could understand with him the frustration when they're coming back to him with a 4-year deal. I know the term is right. Letang said he wants to play another 3 to 5 years, around that range. I think I heard 4, but to give him less than what he's currently making now when he had his best season, kind of a slap in the face. So I'm curious to see what happens with this going forward. I know Kris Letang says he wants to stay here, but you're going to have a lot of teams that are going to be knocking on his door. He's a great defenseman, great right shot defenseman, which a lot of teams covet and want. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be interesting. And Bryan Rust had a really good year. 60 games played, 24 goals, 34 assists for 58 points. He's 30 years old, at that good age where a lot of teams are going to want to add a key veteran, Stanley Cup champion, and a good player in the locker room as well to their roster. So curious to see what happens with Bryan Rust. He's currently making $3.5 million AAV. I'm sure he's going to want a little bit more, maybe into the $4 or $5 million. As he says, he's not going to want to rob anyone. He just wants something that's fair for both sides, especially for himself. So we'll see what happens with this situation. There's a lot of decisions to make from general manager Ron Hextall to see what he wants to do with the Pittsburgh Penguins going further. Does he want to let these players walk in free agency, or does he want to sign them? And the thing I can see happening is that I think they'll all be back. I think general manager Ron Hextall will come to grips with the realization that if you lose these players via free agency when you have a lot of the team getting older, it hurts the team long term. Trust me, I know. I'm a Devils fan. When I saw we were doing that with a lot of our players, where we weren't signing them, as the team was getting older, it hurt us in the long run, where we were rebuilding afterwards because you're losing assets on the player just walking away. Maybe sign them to a 1 or 2 year deal if they'll take that, and see what you can do. If the team doesn't have a good year, you could trade them at the trade deadline, get some assets instead of them walking away for nothing. So it's just something to consider. We've been there. I don't want to see other teams go through it, but we'll see what happens going forward as the season ends, the Stanley Cup is rewarded, and then we head into the offseason. So I'm curious to see what happens with the Pittsburgh Penguins players. Comment below and let me know what you think. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate your time. Smash that like button if you haven't done so, and subscribe to the Hockey Skate Down. It's free. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of the day. Great night. Take it easy. Stay safe.